All right, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the November Beavercreek Planning Commission. First item of business is the call the roll.
Mr.
Here.
Mr. Baker,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Meyer,
Here.
Mr. Self.
And we'll need a vote to excuse Mr. Self.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to excuse Mr. Self.
Mr. Chair, second.
All right, we'll do that by general consensus. Yep. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Any changes, deletions, additions? Take that as no. And I will need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I would second.
And we can do that by general consensus. And the last quick item is approval of the minutes of the October 6th Beavercreek Planning Commission. Any changes or deletions there? Okay, I'll need a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the October 6th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
And we'll do that also by general consensus.
Mr. Chair, I'll abstain. I was
You're
absent.
gonna stay, okay.
Yep.
And we have two items today. One is a public hearing, and the second one is a subdivision. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick off PUD 8-2 Mod 1021.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. For is an application requesting approval of a minor modification to CPD 08-2. Should you choose to approve this modification, it would allow for construction of an automatic car wash on approximately 1.5 acres in the University Park development. So the 1.5 acres is located on Colonel Glenn Highway, just across from the Meyer Shopping Center, as I stated, within University Park. The proposed site is currently vacant, and it is just across the street from the existing True Hotel by Hilton that we approved. I believe it was at the end of 2018 or early 2019. So the entire property was originally annexed into the city in 2008 from Beavercreek Township. And at that time, we rezoned the property to PUD 08-2. And with that rezoning, there were conditions of approval that were included. And one of those conditions required that any of the outlots within this development would have to go through a minor modification before any construction were to occur. And so we haven't seen very many lately, but a minor modification only requires one planning commission meeting, and it is not a public hearing, and it does not require a presentation by the applicant, but the applicant is here today to be able to answer any questions that you guys may have once I'm done with my staff report. So the plans for this building show that the car wash is going to be approximately 31 feet wide and 120 feet deep. The building is set back approximately 130 feet from Colonel Glenn Highway, and it is going to consist almost entirely of a reddish-brown brick veneer with a cultured stone base that wraps around the entirety of the building, all four elevations. And as you can see in the elevations, and I have a couple of color elevations here just to give you an idea of what it looks like, they're going to have the EFIS tower at the exit of the building, and then there's more EFIS around the top, and then that, you can't really see it here, but you can see it on these drawings. You can see the parapet on that's the front side. Obviously, that you're looking at it from the back side. So the building is approximately 20 feet tall. The majority of it's 20 feet tall, and then the tower at the front of the building is approximately 24 feet tall. So as far as car washes go, it's probably one of the better looking car washes that we've seen. We feel like it's going to blend well with the existing buildings within the PUD and be an improvement to that corridor along Colonel Glenn Highway. So as far as the access points into the site, there's going to be one access point that comes off of Colonel Glenn and comes into the site and then wraps around, and vehicles would drive into the back of the building and then come out through the front and then either exit out or wrap in here and go into the vacuum stall area. The two drive aisles that are being proposed would stack approximately 15 vehicles just at this point, so not counting anything past the ordering point, I guess you could call it. So approximately 15 vehicles there, and our zoning code requires that there be 10 stacking spaces, so it does meet the requirement of the zoning code, and the applicant has stated that it takes approximately 1 minute for each vehicle to get through the actual car wash. So for parking wash facilities, obviously you don't need parking for the vehicles that are going through the wash, but the code does require that there be 1 space for each employee. The applicant's proposing 4 parking spaces, and they're located here. And then they are providing 23 additional spaces here and they will all have the vacuum stands, the self-vacuuming stands, and they're all 12 feet wide, which is normally we require 9 to 10 feet. So the 12 feet allows for more movement as people are opening their car doors and vacuuming their vehicles. As far as stormwater is concerned for this site, there is a detention pond here behind the hotel that services the entire PUD. So they didn't have to do any additional stormwater on their site directly, but they will have to meet some water quality standards. And we did add a condition that requires that the city engineer review all of their stormwater requirements before we release any zoning permits. And then I think I have a landscape plan, just to give you an idea of the amount of landscaping that they're proposing to put in. Staff is pleased with the number of trees and shrubs that are being proposed on the site. We, as usual, will require that a final landscape plan be reviewed by us before we release a zoning permit, and we do bond that landscaping and require that a PUD agreement be signed as well. And then finally, as far as signage goes, the applicant did not show a ground sign for the site, but they have indicated that they do have interest in installing a ground sign. So we did add a condition, just a general sign size condition that requires that the sign be no larger than 25 square feet, 50 total, and no taller than 5 feet, and also that it be placed on a stone base, which matches the adjacent sign just across the way. And then as far as the wall signs go, these are the only 2 signs that they've indicated that they're going to have on the building. So we just added a condition that requires that the signs be no larger than 25 square feet. I believe the box around them is 24 square feet on that, and that's consistent with B2 zoning, which is kind of the general type of zoning outside of PUDs that you see along Colonel Glenn Highway. And then this is located within an impact fee district, so they will be required to pay impact fees. Aside from that, staff is recommending approval of this application with the 18 conditions in the attached staff report. And if you have any questions, I can answer those now. And then the applicant is also here to answer questions as well.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And I apologize that this is not a public hearing, so I will start here to my right with Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, just one question for staff. So I know you addressed stacking already, but is there any reason like the ordering point isn't moved to the left more? Because then you could add, more cars in there. And I actually happened to look at like aerial images of 2 other car washes in the area, and they had 19 cars stacked
in there. And when we talked about the stacking, we literally just said, okay, like we did a very general, not close together, like if we had packed them in, I'm sure that we could have, like we were trying to be as conservative with that number as possible to say, okay, it can fit this many, but you could probably fit almost 20 in there if you bumper to bumpered them. And I will let the applicant answer the question about the order point, but I'm guessing is they probably didn't want, like you have the 2 lanes that then you order and then it merges down into 1, so they don't want to pinch or, have that
2 order points.
Yeah, too early before so that's my guess on that, but if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, just one more, I guess.
Sure.
So a few months ago, we had passed some additional language in the zoning code that would allow, I think, planning commission or city council to require like a drive-through establishment to add additional like stacking capacity if it is a problem. Does that apply in this case, or was that only to like restaurants?
I mean, it could apply in this case if you all felt that there wasn't enough stacking here, you absolutely could add a condition. It's our opinion that for car washes, because it's a consistent 1 minute, you know, whether it's 1 minute or 2 minutes, you know, it probably varies with car washes, but it will always be that consistent time. So for each car, it will always be the same, whereas the issue that happens in drive-through establishments that serve food, one order could take 5 minutes, one order could take 30 seconds, so then you have this variation. But also in this case, and what the change that we made as far as the stacking goes was when the stacking might spill out onto a main road. So we still have the flexibility of their drive aisle too, to if it were, you know, after a snow event or something, generally that's when you have the most vehicles, but you could still stack out, it's not ideal, but still stack out into the drive aisle without interrupting anything on Colonel Glen.
Okay.
So that's why we felt comfortable with not requiring anything additional.
Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Mr. Diker?
A few questions, or at least one. You alluded to earlier in the report that there are requirements for additional water quality standards. I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit more about what those are. And
So it's an engineering thing, and I'm not an engineer, but basically there's certain standards that the EPA has that requires that the water filter out slowly through, you know, the detention pond, and there's something additionally that was implemented in the mid-2000s, I believe it was, by the EPA, which I'd like to,
You want me to address that?
Randy will elaborate.
Hi, Mr. Diker. Thank you. What it is there's a first flush requirement. So they make the orifice, the outlet in the pond smaller so the water stays in the pond longer, so that any sediment, oil, and you know, flakes off of the brakes, anything else like that, sets into the ground there rather than flushes out into the stormwater system. So it's just it makes the water stay longer in the pond and sediment in the pond rather than going into the river or into our stream system.
Okay. And my follow-up question is, I'm having a hard time tracing where that requirement goes into one of the recommendations or the conditions.
So, yeah, it's a very general condition.
I'm assuming it's number 10, but,
Yes, all concerns of the city engineer
okay.
shall be addressed and approved prior to the, yes,
Okay.
that's the condition, yes.
And just generally, when I think about car washes, and I think about, there's probably a lot of soap, chemicals, runoff, and when I think about, and when I read the idea about the water quality, I was wondering if there was any concern about any potential chemical or soap runoff just based on the nature of the business and how that might impact any of the other parcels in the area, or if it's going to be graded in a way that allows it to be contained and properly discharged or
I understand where you're going. I think that's probably a better question for the applicant. As far as the city is concerned, we don't have any concerns with the runoff, because again, the water quality is kind of part of that to make sure that those contaminants aren't seeping into, you know, into the water. So that's kind of where the water quality requirement plays into it. But I think as far as what they're using specifically and how that works, I think is a question for the applicant.
okay.
Would you like to?
Can we hear from the applicant then?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sandra. My name's Rob Painter. I'm with RVP Engineering. I'm the applicant. So all of the chemical treatment for the car wash stays within the car wash. So it's got drains that pull that down, and it goes into the baffling system and into the sanitary sewer. So it doesn't come out of the car wash with the facility. Any stormwater, any rainwater that carries anything from the parking lot will have to be addressed and treated before it's led into the storm system as it goes off site. So really those two things don't mix.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No other questions?
All right. Mr. Ayers?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
No questions. I just had one quick question for Sandra. So how does the flow work upon exit? So is it gonna move to the east, then to the north, to the east, then
So
back down
as they're
south?
exiting the car wash, so they would.
They
come
can
out-
exit straight out?
They can exit
Okay.
straight out, or they can turn here and go into the
Okay.
parking area, and then when they want to leave the parking area, they just come out right here.
Do
See,
you know
there's-
approximately how many car spaces are between there and then the drive out?
Between this little snake here,
Not the snake, but just the straight line. If they're gonna drive straight out, they're not gonna use the vax, they're gonna go straight out.
that looks like it might be 4.
Okay, that's a lot, because that's honestly been the only concern with the other car washes we've had is
Yeah.
they exit out so quick, you can fit a car, and if they can't get out, the whole car wash stops, and it becomes a kind of a
Yeah.
nightmare over there on CJ.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
four is
Yeah.
more than enough to
Yeah,
get
it's
guys out.
definitely a
and-
much bigger exit.
Yeah.
From than
Plus the
CJ.
panel, and yeah, it's not a very fun car wash to get out
Yeah.
of. I don't think I have any further questions. I guess with that, we will need a vote, or we'll need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to approve PUD 08-2 mod 10/21 with the 18 attached conditions.
Mr. Chair, I second.
With that, we'll call the vote.
Mr. Ayers?
Yes?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
All right, decision passes 4-0. And the last item we have today is a subdivision, S-21-10, the John F. Bach replat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting approval of replat of 5.37 acres to create one additional buildable lot along Shakertown Road. So as you can see, the property is located just west of the 675 Shakertown Road overpass. This here is the Summit Ridge condo development. So the proposal would create one additional lot within the Bach plat, and that new lot 1A would consist of 0.462 acres and is currently vacant. So the property owners have decided that they would like to create one additional lot for someone to be able to build a house on, and then the remainder of the property will be Lot 2A and will contain the 4.908 acres. This property is zoned R1A, one family residential. That zoning designation is not going to change, and the two lots do meet the requirements of that R1A zoning district, which is 20,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 100 feet. They are also proposing to dedicate a little more than 1/10 of an acre along Shakertown Road for right-of-way. We did do a road project there recently and widened the road and added sidewalk, and at this time that's still considered to be on their property, but once they dedicate that right-of-way, that all will be public property. So because a new residential lot is being created, they will be required to pay park fees just for that one new residential lot. We did send out the plat to all the area agencies, and they all are recommending approval or approval with conditions, and staff is also recommending approval with the 4 conditions in the attached staff report. I'm not going to answer any questions you have right now.
All right, fantastic. Mr. Ayers?
I have no questions.
Mr. Diker?
I also have no questions.
Mr. Meyer?
Not necessarily a question, but a comment. So I just know that this section of Shakertown, there's a huge hill and kind of like a blind hill. So just anything we could do to ensure like the driveway of the new house can get over to the left as far as possible.
Yeah, I think that's probably their plan. I know that they have alleviated some of the hill with the road work that they did there, but yeah, it is still a little bit blind. So I believe what they want to do is connect it to their existing driveway that they have, so that should help.
Okay.
The only question I had is, it's an irregular shaped lot. is there any concern, because in 20 years, are you gonna be able to find pins? You're gonna find a corner pin and just assume it's a square lot, and is this
Yeah,
create a bit
honestly,
of an issue?
I'm not sure why they decided to cut it off that way. I had the same kind of question when I was looking at the aerial photo, because there's nothing there that would make you think, like, if there was a shed or something, oh, well, I want to
Yeah,
room, but
because now you gotta find 5 pins to figure
Yeah,
out the property,
I think
and
they
that's
just,
pretty weird.
yeah, I mean, it's not something that we analyze as far as, how they shape the lot, as long as it meets the other requirements, but I
Does the
can't
city
tell you.
have any concerns with it being
No,
regular?
no,
Okay,
no.
if the city doesn't have any concerns, then, okay. That was all the questions I have. With that, I will need a motion one way or the other.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to pass case number S21-10 with the 4 attached conditions.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Well, that will need a vote.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes,
Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
that's S21-10 passes 4-0. And we are fresh out of items on the agenda, so I will need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, perfect. With that, we will close the November Planning Commission meeting.